Welcome to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. And I'm very happy to have you here. Today is just on the cusp of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And there's going to be a lot happening, already getting underway. And we're going to have a wonderful Zoom podcast panel to join us to talk about that. Before we do, though, I want to thank Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island, which offers independent and assisted living along with memory care up on Rolling Bay. They have day stay and respite care programs, and you can check it all out at their website, which is fieldstonecommunities.com, or call Celia or Jamie, and they'll be glad to give you a free tour and maybe a meal. No, they can have you stop by and enjoy their bar and grill. I would also like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the ancestral homeland of the people of the clear salt water, the Suquamish people who have lived on the Salish Sea since time immemorial. We honor them, and we are learning from their stewardship of these lands and waters how we too can be better stewards. I want to thank Katie Curtis, who has been really helpful in lining up some of these conversations to help make these. And I know this one was a lot of work, Katie, so I appreciate you doing that. And I think that I'll ask you, if you would, to start us off and talk a little bit about who's on the panel, and we'll hear from them. If you'll need to unmute, so I'll just.
There
you
I
go.
Found it. Okay. Welcome. Hi, everybody. Reed, it's just such a pleasure to work on programs with you always. It's been wonderful. And I want to welcome everybody here. And I'm very, very excited. We have an incredible panel here with us today to talk about this upcoming month of celebrations and to talk about how really the Bainbridge Island, Asian American Bainbridge Islanders have been giving us celebrations to come to for decades and decades. It's a real tradition. So let's see, I will first introduce, well, we have Stephanie Reese, who is a wonderful sparkle on the island here today, and has been giving us an incredible amount of just experiences to have, whether it's podcasts she does, or if it's music, or if it's just meeting her on the street and getting excited about what's happening in Bainbridge. And she's just a world-class artist as well, with singing and acting. And so it's an honor to have you here, Stephanie. And we also have the wonderful Tracy Tabafunda. And Tracy, and it's been so fabulous to know you and to know your family and to know all of the traditions that you bring and honor in Filipino American Hall and with your families. And Tracy's been a leader in the community and in the Filipino American community forever, and has just a beautiful family and brings us incredible richness. So happy to be here, and it's fun to be with you, Tracy, always. And then we have Carol Reese, who is Reitz, sorry, Carol. And Carol's my dear co-BIJAC leader. She is our fearless leader for BIJAC, for the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community. She also is the head of Rotary Auction for years and years, and head of volunteers. And she's come onto the island in the last decade or so, and just taken over some really important celebrations on Bainbridge, specifically the Mochizuki Festival every year, and March 30th, the commemoration day of March 30th of leaving our neighbors leaving our island, the island. And last but not least, I will introduce the incredible leader and educator and community builder and also artist Gina Corpuz. And Gina has brought incredible richness to the island since she was very, very little. She's a dancer. She's been through all the Bainbridge schools. She's fought for civil rights in the 90s. She's led the multicultural advisory folks, and we've worked together on in the historical museum a lot. Just a dear friend, Gina, and she has also brought celebrations and experienced. Probably Gina and Tracy have experienced the most Bainbridge celebrations of us all. So Gina, I think what I'll do is I'll start with you, if I may. And just, I'd like to go over if you and maybe Tracy, or you could ask Tracy, some of the Bainbridge celebrations that your communities, identify your communities that your communities and your families have brought to the whole island.
So I'll go ahead and start. And that's true. I see my sister Lorraine, Thelma Hale, is also signed on. And we grew up in that Filipino hall, as my father was one of the founders of the Filipino American community and helped purchase the hall. And so from a really early age, we were there dancing, listening to the Filipino live band. And there were so many celebrations that went on in the 40s and 50s, and we were just children. But I remember most of all the Strawberry Festival, which was a celebration of a bountiful harvest. There were over 45 berry farms owned by Filipino farmers. And so at the end of the season, they had the Strawberry Festival. And at that time, it really was a fundraiser. And the young ladies ran for Strawberry Festival Queen, and they had to sell tickets. And whoever sold the most tickets was the Strawberry Queen. And half the proceeds went to the Filipino Hall to pay for the maintenance, and the other half went to the Queens. So the Strawberry Festival has been going on for a really long time now. And I know that Tracy and Jean and the other board members have been carrying on that tradition for so many years now.
Yeah, I just love, I love the stories of the music that would happen in that hall, and how everybody, knew, had instruments, and that was just a natural thing to have that music. And one of the first times I was in the hall had opened to something called Sing Out, and it was a gospel situation where everybody was singing, but it's just such a wonderful, wonderful place. And so, Tracy, I was wondering, will you share a story or two of growing up in celebration on the island?
Hi, thank you. Excuse me. Well, actually, I grew up in Seattle. My parents are Harold and Joy Belmont, and my grandparents are Mary Louise and Honoretto Joe Rapata. He's a pioneer. And my mom, being the eldest of 13, we moved to Seattle when I was 7 years old. So I remember as a child going to the hall and stuff, but the last 15 years, my husband, Gina Tabafunda, was the president of the Filipino American community, and he recently stepped down because we retired. And we now have a new president. His name is Mark Salanga Sharma. So we look forward to what our younger generation is going to bring to our community. But in the past 15 years of celebrating Strawberry Festival, we have the Royal Court, and in the past, what Gina mentioned about selling raffle tickets to, and the highest one became the Queen. Well, our community got smaller, so I proposed that any of the kids that wanted to participate in the Strawberry Festival Royal Court, we included them. We included them all because they actually started out, some of them started out at a very young age. They wanted to dress up and wear their pretty dresses and their barongs, and we included them because when we include all the children, that includes all their families, and that brings more people together. And being that we are a small organization, we appreciated the ones that stepped forward and wanted to be in the court because they may, if we say we're only selecting a few, and then next year we ask them to come, they may not come, or they may be shy because they weren't chosen. So when we allowed all the kids to participate, and then it brought more families together. And Jean was really good about any of our community events, especially the Strawberry Festival, is that the Royal Court was able to speak, and they had to say who they were, who their parents were, and if they could go back to who their pioneers were so that they knew the lineage of the families and the history of Bainbridge. And they all continue to do that every year for the events. And that's really important because even having parties at the hall, I've had some kids that I know were going to Strawberry Hill to a baseball game, and they seen all the cars at the Filipino Hall, and they wanted to be at the hall because they consider that hall their home, their place, for community gatherings. Unfortunately, at that time, it was a rental. So their mom was trying to tell them, no, we can't go to the hall today. But that's a good vibe and feeling that our kids have, knowing that that is a place in their heart that they can call home in their community.
So Tracy, I know that last year the Strawberry Festival was right next to the new Asian Heritage Festival. Is it this year also right at the same time?
Actually, we're going to have our Strawberry Festival on June 7th this year. So it'll be a week after the main event of the Asian American Festival. But we've already lined up our dancers, the Filipiniana dance troupe from Seattle, and our DJ, Patrick Holgaris, flipped the script. And it's a work in progress, but we'll have Stephanie joining us as well. And she's actually our public relations officer for the Filipino American community now. So we welcome Stephanie in her additional role with us, and we appreciate her.
Oh, thank you so much, Tracy. That's great. That's really just I think of that. I don't know. I guess I go back to how this land has just been blessed with many decades of welcoming people. And I know that for the Strawberry Festival for a few years there, you didn't have any publicity really. And it was kind of word of, it's like you had to know when it was in order to show up. And I remember showing up and feeling so, included, and it's, the door is open. And so your story about the kids and, that but they're all kings and queens of the Strawberry Festival. And it's just it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And yeah, well, I will transition to Stephanie then, because Stephanie, before we go into what's happening this year, I'd love to know your experience of feeling welcomed to, Philam Hall, or, encouraged to join this tradition of having. So if you want to just say something about your coming into the community and your celebrations in the
Yeah,
past. So
thank you, Katie, and thanks for having, all of us on this panel. It's always fascinating to me to hear the history. Every time I learn something new when I listen to Gina or Tracy about history here. And but yes, it's been the wonderful thing for me personally from the journey and beginning this quest to do an Asian festival on the island till now is a really just inspiring one. And I think that, in terms of me joining the community, it was really about showing up and taking the time to have relationships with so many different people. And with the Filipino community, specifically, what was really, I learned about the Strawberry Festival. And when we were having meetings about doing the Asian Festival in the beginning, they were like, oh, why don't we combine? And this is before I knew anything about the history of the Strawberry Festival. And with great grace and understanding and kindness, knowing that I didn't know any better, when I did approach, Gina and Marissa and different people from the Filipino community about like, oh, why can't we just combine these festivals and then we'll give you more publicity? Not really understanding that there's a deep and rich history behind why there's a Strawberry Festival and why it needs to stand alone. And that's kind of an example of many parts of my journey with the Asian Festival, of understanding this rich history here, the interconnectedness of the Japanese community and the Filipino community and the Indopino community, and really wanting to give so much care and reverence to the history here, and then also embracing the fact that that's what makes us such an original community, different than any place that I've performed or traveled to in the U.S. When I've sang for different festivals and performed even around the world. I can say with great confidence that Bainbridge Island is completely unique, and so it makes me really happy that it kind of, just became. It was very clear to me that having this Asian Arts and Heritage Festival really matched our community here because of the interconnectedness. And then, as I've said many times now in this past few weeks, that also understanding that the next generation of our communities here are mixed race, people, and that actually matches also our history, which I've learned so much about from Gina, like just the Indopino community being its own culture is something that really rings to me personally, because I'm also of mixed race heritage, and just and that's been the journey really, to like I've now been on this journey of understanding myself. I mean, it was not the original intent, and it wasn't something that I realized was unique about Bainbridge Island when I first came here. I knew nothing of this, but in this journey of creating the festival, I've understood so much more about my Japanese heritage, about my Filipino heritage, and also and Filipino American specifically, because it's different than knowing your heritage from the country, which I've also done that journey, but also understanding the pioneers of this land really helps me understand like the bigger picture of like there's a whole other journey of Filipinos who founded founding farmers here that extends across, the West Coast and Hawaii and different parts of the United
Mhm.
States. And that our mixed cultures throughout the United States have their own traditions. And I've learned that from Gina, their own, in my family specifically, my mom's Chinese and Filipino, and my dad is Japanese and Caucasian. We have our own traditions that are about being mixed. And I never knew that that was something I could celebrate collectively until I took the journey of the festival. And I understood that there's a whole generation of people like me that are mixed, but also a whole generation of people that want to know more about their own cultures, and specifically here on Bainbridge Island, that so many people, whether you are Asian or not, want to know about the history of Bainbridge Island and what makes us unique with all this interconnectedness. And that is maybe one of the best compliments that we received last year was, oh my gosh, I lived here my whole life. I went to high school here. I went to school with all these families, and I never knew the history of what these families endured, why the Strawberry Festival existed. They never went to the Filipino American Community Hall, and yet they were born and raised on Bainbridge Island, and they're in their 50s and 60s, and it's like, wow, for that to exist and for them to not know, and for them to absorb that history is also, and embrace it as being part of their own heritage because they're from here, was really beautiful and unique. And that's been true across the board. So yeah, everyone has been very open-armed to step forward for the festival and for learning. This season of learning is almost what I want to call it.
It certainly, thank you so much, Stephanie. And it has been, just delightfully. There's a way in which that, because I worked in the historical museum for 15 years, so there's a way where it was like newcomers would call themselves newcomers after they had been here 25 years, right? And so we kind of wanted to punch that apart. It's like, no, this history is your history. And we used to tell the students that even if you're from off island, this history is your history. And so it's been such a delight to see you weaving and picking all this up and to have your contribution. And I hear what you're saying, and I've heard it before. And even I really feel like that too, that there's a certain way in which people move to Bainbridge Island and don't expect to get to know themselves necessarily. That's not exactly why they moved here. And Carol, I've heard a little bit about that kind of you moving here, you stepping into the community. And I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about your experience of festivals and of the Asian heritage that has brought so much richness, and how the community participates in that history and that heritage.
Ooh, big question. So I am a third generation Japanese American, which means my grandparents immigrated here to the Seattle area, my mother, and then my father down to the California area. And so my parents and grandparents were impacted and of course imprisoned in 1942 during those 3 years when Japanese Americans from the West Coast were removed and imprisoned for 3 years. So I ended up growing up in Minnesota as a result of that. So what happened by moving to Bainbridge, which was about 8 years ago, by being involved with the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community, especially doing the tours at the Exclusion Memorial and putting on Mochizuki, which is a big festival in January, which attracts about 2,000 plus people, has really encouraged me and really forced me to learn a lot more about my own family history. And I really didn't know much about it. And of course, there's a certain point where when you're growing up, you don't really, it's like, oh, that's nice. It's happened to my family. They don't talk much about it. But being able to do tours at the Exclusion Memorial, as well as sharing that information with Mochizuki, has encouraged me to look more into my family history, being able to share it, and really having the community appreciate that, because there can be a point as a newcomer where you feel like, well, I wasn't born here, I didn't live here, I didn't graduate here, so I can't tell my story because, unless you're a Bainbridge Islander, you can't tell your story. But I came to realize that that's not true. I'm not sure where I got that, but it's clear to me that that's not the case, because of being able to be involved and being invited to share also with the school district with their curriculum in March. So yeah, does that cover it or?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much. It just warms my heart because it's interesting, how intentionally a community like an island, can feel like they want to welcome newcomers. And then when you hear, whatever about, oh, there's so much change or something. I don't know what the message, why there's this message. And it sounds like that message is breaking down, like with you and, with Stephanie and Tracy, who kind of was off the island and came back. And people do go off the island and come back. And when they come back, it's like, oh, am I a newcomer or not? Like myself, I moved off the island when I was 6. Didn't come back until 20 years ago. So it's a interesting sense of belonging that I think is available and nurtured in a way, but also for Stephanie to be saying, and I know that this happens too for the Japanese American community, where there are people on our island who don't know that they belong in this history and to learn this stuff. So the more celebrations that we can do, to bring people in, the better. So I just wanted to see if any of before we go into what's coming down, what's happening now in this next month and June and what's coming, I was wondering, is there anybody that's has a little story they want to talk about showing up at any of these celebrations, like, last year or before? Is there anybody that wants to pipe in? I just inviting all our wonderful listeners.
Well, I think what you said about the welcoming is something that is always there. I've always felt in this community, although it's important to honor the heritage by showing up. And I feel like that's one of the things that certainly with the Mochizuki and with the Strawberry Festival and with some of the other events, if you show up, you're welcome. You just need to take the effort to reach out and make a connection. And I've always found that to be, as you said earlier, heartwarming and wonderful. And it makes it, I mean, one of the sad things is that if we don't keep making those connections, we will lose the heritages. And one of the things about the people who are here on this panel today is that all of you have worked to make sure we don't, to make sure that we remember, to make sure that we honor that past and make the connections. And I thank you all for doing that.
Nice. Yeah.
Can I share my first experience at the Strawberry Festival?
Yes.
So I went to my first one. I don't remember how long ago it was. I didn't know what to expect, but I was so thrilled because I won a raffle and I won like 50 pounds of rice. So I was thrilled.
Yes, creative we are. It's so fun. Things are often, unexpected like that. And it's like almost overwhelming. 50 pounds of rice. Like, that's so generous. It's so great.
So
That's
can, Katie, can I just add to, we really, when we talk about Asian Heritage Month, we really cannot talk about the Filipino American and the Japanese American community without talking about the farming community. And because farming is a culture of into itself. And I really have learned so much more about the Japanese American community by serving on the Suimatsu Legacy Farm Alliance and getting to know the families, the Suimatsu family and the Shibayamas and Vern Nakata, because I didn't know them in that way, but also because we're restoring not just Suimatsu's house, but also the picker cabins. And those picker cabins have such a history that those walls have really gone silent because they're not restored nor open to the public. And that's where the stories are in these historic buildings. I mean, we can talk about history, but we really need to preserve the structures that hold those stories. And the farming culture has its own stories, and Stephanie will add to that because it's also Asian Heritage Month are the farming stories.
Yes. Thank you very, very much. It's really profound to be working on that project to save those structures of the picker cabins on the Suimatsu farm and that farmhouse. And yeah, so Stephanie, you have something about farmers. Do you want to take it from Gina?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have, a ton of events that I would like to talk about, and in some ways, but because that came up organically, I think it was, it's just another example of how our community is interwoven and supportive and of one another. And I was on the phone with Gina about another show that I'm doing called the Asian Monologues as part of the month, which I'll talk about later. But in our conversation about it, I didn't yet have a Japanese Heritage Night planned, and we had one last year, and we had very few events last year. I think we had about 4, and then the main festival, which already, to most people, that was already like a lot of events. This year we have 15. So we grew tremendously. And one of them that we wanted to do was the screening of One Fighting Irishman, which is a film brought to us by our friend Elaine Ko, who is in the Japanese community here. And it's about a Japanese, or sorry, an Irish lawyer who fought for 5,000 Japanese people to get their citizenship back when they gave it up under duress when they were in the camps, in the prison camps. And so we were discussing the film, Gina and I, and then she said, well, do you know about the Suimatsu Farm Legacy Alliance? And she told me what she just told us about now, about restoring the picker cabins and the house and really preserving this piece of history here. And I said, well, gosh, what if we made the movie a fundraiser for the Suimatsu Farm Legacy Alliance? And this is one of the things where it's like we take one thing and then we add another thing because we're all connected, and that was just such a beautiful way to bring us all together. But I think to some people they might look on the outside and say, well, oh no, but Gina's with the Indipino community. But no, this is the Indopino and Filipino community and the Japanese community, we're one because we're all a community, and that's kind of an example of that. And with the farmers and the stories that we were just talking about, it's one really exciting event in addition to that Japanese Heritage Night, which will be a fundraiser. We also have something that Mark Salanga, our new board president for the Filipino community, I said, I really, really want us to do something in celebration of the Filipino Community Hall to give the history of the hall and the farmers and their families. And he said, yeah, we should. So he created a show called Voices Across Generations, which will be on May 23rd at the Filipino American Community Hall. And it's a panel discussion with 3 or 4 generations of families that have farming, that come from farming families, that will speak for the first time about the actual history of the hall and of the farmlands, and what they, stories and memories of times that they spent there. And it's really exciting for our community because I think it's the first time, at least that Mark could remember, that we've ever opened to the public a time to get to know these families and the history, not just retelling it to one another to preserve it, but really we want the whole island to show up if they have any questions or they want to know and they want to really understand firsthand experiences. And Mark was saying, it's really fun because for the younger generation, it's about the Christmas parties and the birthday parties and sharing food and anniversaries. And then in the same evening, you're going to hear about people who, their parents were strawberry pickers and berry pickers, and I think that these are the things that we want to share with our Bainbridge Island community, so that they understand the importance of it. And I think not only that, on the day that we do the Asian monologues, which is a show that I created with the submissions of many people in our community. I basically Storytelling seems to be the theme of our month almost, because I've just collected all these stories from last year to this year, and I decided to make a show with our partners, which are Bainbridge Island Museum of Art has given us their auditorium for free to do many events. And I'll let Gina speak on her event also, but the event the day before Gina's event is the Asian monologues. And I had people from our Asian community bring forward stories of the Asian American experience. We have stories from I have a Chinese American couple that have a beautiful story of of immigration and citizenship and what that means. And Gina has a beautiful story from when she was 15 here on the island, and a poem that she wrote. And Clarence Morawaki is giving a really difficult story, actually, of his past, of being a 4-year-old and being told to go back to his country, and things that are really powerful. I have a young girl who's telling a story about what it is to be half Filipino and half Jewish and what that feels like. We have so many submissions that we've had to say some of them will be for next year. But this is what what a trooper Gina is. She is performing in the Asian monologues in the evening of the 17th. But in the day of the 17th, she is holding a huge luncheon for all the farming families, and with a really special kiosk. And it just so happens that it is under the umbrella of our Asian Festival and AAHPI month. And I'm sure Gina would love to tell us about that. But yes, she's doing back-to-back shows.
So on the 17th, the Filipino American community and the Indopino community are co-sponsoring a Filipino farmers luncheon. And it's for the way that we've sort of promoted it to the Filipino and Indopino community is, if you grew up picking raspberries and strawberries on a Filipino farm come to this luncheon. So it's filling up quickly. And unfortunately, we couldn't make it a public event because by the time all the families get in there, it's going to be over 100 people. So, but in the evening, then Mark Salanga and I will go to the Asian monologues with Stephanie. And then the next day, we have Indopino Filipino oral histories. And that is also at BIMA in the auditorium. And so the Indopino community has been developing educational resources for the last 5 years. We've produced a film called Honor Thy Mother. We've done 12 Indopino elder oral histories. And just recently, the younger generation has created a digital magazine on the Indopino stories of the Corpuz family. So those are all going to be featured on the 18th at BIMA. It's a free event. And we start out with Honor Thy Mother and then move into the oral histories and the 100% project. And then we have a multi-ethnic Filipino panel, which is just going to be super powerful. Stephanie's on the panel. Tony Jones, she's the daughter of Penny and Ron Miguel. She's now the education director for the Port Gamble Slalom tribe. And Rosie Raimondo, whose father was the president of the Filipino American community for 21 years, is a Bainbridge High School graduate. She went on to get her doctoral degree, and she is now the chancellor for the community colleges in the state of Washington. And then we'll also have Third Andreessen, who is a University of Washington professor, as well as on the board of the Filipino American Educators of Washington. And then we have a young man. I still call him young because I remember him growing up on Auntie Ida and Uncle Mike's berry farm. And many of you are familiar with the Corpus berry stand on the highway. This is where Dios Sarame grew up. And he said, my last name is Sarami, but I've always wanted to be a Corpus. And he said part of that was because he was born in the Philippines and he was forced to acculturate into the Filipino American community on Bainbridge, but also into a white community. And so it was really a story about fitting in and growing up in the Philippines and then trying to become Americanized. So that's our day on the 18th. It's really full. We're going to have a break and in between all of those and be serving Filipino desserts. So it looks like we have a full house right now on the 18th. We have 100 seats reserved, but sometimes with these free events, people don't show up. So I'm telling people to come anyway. Thank you to BIMA.
Yeah, no one, it just sounds wonderful. What a wonderful gift to the community to do that, to waive any fees and host.
Yeah, what an incredible collaboration and effort you're leading, and that, the I know it sounds cliche, but the synergy between Stephanie and you and the Phil-Am community, and it's just amazing. It's so exciting. So we are already at 2:15, and so I think what I'll do is I just want to thank our panelists, because I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, and I have this feeling like she could she might take up the rest of the time sharing the background and the history of everything that's coming up. And it's just such an honor. And I don't know, maybe I will see you there, right, Tracy? We'll see you this week, this summer, I mean this month, right? And and Carol. So thanks for everybody. And Stephanie.
Well, I want to just, yeah, I want to
Yeah.
just before we sort of start to go too deep in this, I want to make sure we get out where's the right place to keep track of what's happening. I see there are a lot of events posted on BEMA and on Bainbridge Currents. Where should I be following to make sure that I attend as many things as I can?
Yes, so all of our events will be listed on Bainbridge Currents, and as well as on our Facebook page, which is the Asian Arts and Heritage Festival Facebook page. But yeah, the most up-to-date full list is on Bainbridge Currents, and it's being updated as we speak because we're constantly getting more sponsors and people wanting us to include events. And so yes, but right now, as of right now, everything is on Bainbridge Currents. That's the best place. Well, I will just say again, thank you. And and yeah, not only will it also be on Bainbridge Currents, but there are QR codes for each of the individual events as well. And I know it is a long list of stuff, and I want to make sure and be inclusive of everyone. And I want to say thank you to Reed for even last year, because we were the little engine that could last year. And I mean, he knows the story. It was a whole lot of no before we could even get to the point of announcing that we even had a festival. And I think to date, it was this week or next week, a year ago, that I just finally was able to announce that we might be able to finally do a festival. It was very clunky in the beginning. And so I'm really proud of our entire community for rallying with us. And to just talk about a little bit about last year before I go into the list is we had over 2,000 people attend the festival finale last year. If I include the 4 events that we had and all the volunteers, I mean, I'd say over 100 participants. It's just so amazing to me that we grew, and now that this year it's even more. And I just think it answers the community need, because if the community didn't want it, it wouldn't have worked, and we wouldn't have been so successful. And I want to just also say that the overall umbrella of this whole thing is inclusivity, and I think that that open door thing, the very thing that makes us in essence Asian, in my opinion, is the feeling of family. And that means that it is an open door. It's an open door to I loved what Reed said, because that was exactly my thinking, which is like, if people show up, if people come, it means they're supporting Asian culture, and not just Asian culture, but all culture. It means that it's important to us as a community, that we have these things. And I've had friends who are hosting events in May who are like, I'm so scared people won't come. I'm so scared it won't be well attended. And to that, I just said, it doesn't matter, because if 2 people, what matters is that we offer it, and that we continue to offer it, because it starts to get in people's minds that it's there. And so if 2 people come, great, then that's 2 people who understand that we're celebrating this night. And but we need it to be a part of the culture of our island, that it's offered. And yes, we do want people to show up, but I want that to be really emphasized. So I'm going to go down the list of events quickly, so that in the spirit of time, and in case people have questions. We are so excited that we are launching the month off with our comedy show with Rex Navarrete, a dear friend who is a fantastic Filipino-American comedian. Dan Rosenberg will be his opener, who our very own Dan Rosenberg, who lives on the island. We wanted, something local and something cultural all in the same night. There's 2 shows, 6 and 8 o'clock, and you can go to Bainbridge Currents to find out about it, and also to be the first day that we are selling raffle tickets, which include a round trip ticket to Manila from Philippine Airlines from Seattle. So that's exciting. We also have a lot of other local vendors. Tills is giving $500 of dirt. I mean, for $10, you can get a lot of really interesting prizes. the next day, Bima has a luau that Leilani, our friend who works at, oh, sorry, somebody was calling in, who works at Bima. She is hosting a luau. That's very exciting. That starts at 11 o'clock and goes till 5. And then we have the first ever Korean Heritage Night that is an incredible celebration of Korean culture. I'm emceeing this event. There's singing, there's dancing, there's Taekwondo demonstrations from a local team here that they're national champions. Anna Choi is the host of this event, and apparently it is the first ever Korean Heritage Celebration in Kitsap County. That's really exciting. Then we have Mariko Green, who is here on the Zoom. She is hosting with AHB a world dance celebration with Bollywood dancing and Bonadori dancing, and you can tell us more about it, Mariko.
Yes. So this is kind of interesting, and Stephanie basically told everybody what I have been thinking about, but you explained it so beautifully. So I'm very happy that. So this one is kind of interesting. It's everything is kind of interconnected, and then because this concept actually started at by Jack. 4 years ago, I think Carol and I had just a little chat of, oh, it would be nice to have kind of dance, thing. And now look at us 3 years later, it's expanded and then it's going to be expanded even more. And I want to make it, very special, as Bainbridge Island, just the annual
Tradition,
dance.
yes.
And
Yeah.
yes, we are going to have, so thank you so much for the rowing center. Also, they basically, allowed us to use the facility for free. And with so many other people, we are going to have, this thing. So it's a festival dance party, and May 9th and start at 7 p.m. It's very family friendly. And, we want all the family to come, without worrying about the babysitters, just to bring a bottle of water. So quickly, we are just going to be, having like jazz dance, disco, Bollywood, K-pop, and Latin, and then Bon Odori, of course. That's how we started. So I have actually, Suematsu, you were talking about Suematsu, farm celebration. And that's exactly what I'm kind of going for. I want to make it, so that the people listen to the music and then they know how to do it, with that instructor. This time we have a unbelievably nice instructor, Lisa, and we are just working on the program, and we are almost finalizing. So it's going to be fun night, and just either dress up or dress down or whatever. Maybe just come on over. It will be fun. And just the last thing is just that this morning I was talking with my right-hand person, Mary Jensen. It's so fabulous. And we are just, thinking about promoting like local bands. We have so many talented musicians and performers, and we want to really feature more and more, because these people are just phenomenal people. So we are just going to, put the package together and just make it bigger. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rico. And yeah, so that one's at the Rowing Center. I forgot to say that the Korean Heritage Night is at Woodward Middle School. So, and that one is at 6 o'clock. So yes, come dance with us. The next day we have bingo and karaoke to launch Mother's Day weekend at the Filipino American Community Hall. It's going to be so fun. It's in the evening at 6 o'clock. It's a cultural potluck, so it's free. And most of our events, with the exception of maybe 2, are all free. So that's pretty exciting. So please join us for that. And then of course we have this is the first ever, I think, in Washington State. This is history, Melanesian Heritage Night at Bima. So exciting. Our partner Mere she's Melanesian. She has Melanesian women today, and they're doing a kava demonstration, grass skirt making for the little ones, and lei making, and the Fijian dancers will be coming from Seattle to do a performance. It's really, really a whole evening of celebration at 5 o'clock. Then, of course, as I told you, we have the Asian monologues on the 17th at Bima at 7 p.m. And then, of course, Gina's event that she told us about for the Indopino Filipino Oral Histories and 100% Project on the 18th. And I think that one starts at 1 o'clock. And then a really fun thing at Kitty Mew, they're partnering with us on the 21st to do a kids show where little ones can wear their pajamas, bring their dinner. And my friend Mikey Gervais he's a kids performer. And this is like one of the things I'm talking about, inclusivity. He's not Asian, but he does kids performing in science, and so his singing and his act will be about Asian ecosystems and exotic animals. And they'll have paper crane making that night and other fun activities. And then we have the 23rd, the Stories Across Generations, Voices Across Generations, which we told you about at the Filipino American Community Hall, about the hall and the farmers. And then on the 24th, Bainbridge Arts and Crafts with Norimi. She is a pressed flower card maker, Japanese card making. That is a class that will be offered on the 24th. Then the 28th is the Japanese Heritage Night, which will be at Linwood Theater, which is, yeah, so exciting. Carol, myself, Gina, and Elaine, and will all be there. And for the Suyamatsu Farm Legacy Alliance, as a fundraiser, we have a Japanese dancer who will be doing a performance, a presentation by the Suyamatsu Farm Legacy Alliance, and then an incredible panel discussion with Sharon Yamato, who is the film director and creator, will be flying here from Los Angeles, Clarence Murawaki, and then my brother-in-law's father, Sam Omoto, just agreed yesterday night that he will come to be on the panel. He was a survivor of the camp that is featured in the film of Lake Tule, and it's a big and actually he's also in the Asian monologues. He's blind but he wants to do this, so he's coming, and he has an escort coming, and I'm just so very touched by this. Super fast story about that is that we didn't even know this, but he was able to get his citizenship back in the United States because of the lawyer featured in the movie. And we had no idea until we did the research. So it was very, very incredible part of history for my family. And then, of course, we have the 31st, the big festival finale. We have so many incredible performers, including World Dance Heritage, the Filipino folk dancing. We have Mongolian throat singers, a Chinese orchestra coming in from Seattle, a Kung Fu demonstration, plus the Lionhead dancing. We have the taiko drummers will be performing twice, actually. We have the Fijian dance group with a Papua New Guinea dance group as well. A children's Japanese dance company that came last year as well. They'll be UV Performing Arts. I will be hosting the kids performer. Mikey will also be doing a kids performance that day. And we have food vendors, Smoked Asian Barbecue, Green Pot Deli, Teriyaki Town and Sauce Nouvelle, AK Lumpia, and Sushi Co. And we're hoping to get even more. So it's a lot, and we're just so proud to be representing so many different cultures. And the educational booths. This is something really exciting. The kids will have an exploration card. They'll get stamps for visiting the educational booths, which are interactive booths run in some cases by teens, where they will go to the Indopino Filipino Heritage booth, the Filipino Heritage booth, or the Japanese Heritage booth, or the Melanesian, African American. We include all cultures, and the kids will go, they get a stamp on their card, and then they get a prize if they fill their card, and they get a stamp if they learn something. And so we have a kids zone that Kitty Mew is running with interactive things, including strawberry planting and paper crane making and Pokemon making cards. You'd like to do it yourself. And Francis Alao will be doing a painting activity. So that's all the stuff. I'm sorry, I tried to go through it as fast as I could because I know we have to go soon, but we really hope to see you there. And that's from 11 to 5 at the historical Filipino American Community Hall grounds.
And on June 1st, we all need to pitch in to give Stephanie a massage somewhere, because my golly.
Reed, can you
Yeah.
believe it grew that big
That's
from
just
last year?
amazing. That's just amazing. I mean, I think we have to clear our
Beautiful.
calendars just to keep up with you. Thank you. That was an amazing rundown. And as you said, check the Facebook group and also Currents Bainbridge
Yes.
to keep up to date with all of it. Yeah, we are out of time, but Katie, thank you for helping to pull this together. And my gosh, ladies, thank you for giving us such a wonderful entree into what's going to be an amazing month.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much, everybody. Thank you, Tracy,
you, Reed.
Stephanie.